Dylan, I know your name appears 8 times as either associate editor or additional editor. I thought I would put the burden on you to sort of establish what this new post-production production pipeline is and explain words like the volume and, virtual production set.
A lot of stuff has been said about the volume itself, and there's great videos and articles about it. Baz and Greg Frazier, the DPs, did a lot of work to get that going. ILM, so it's pretty amazing. The stuff for us that was actually, I think, the coolest is the way we use storyboards and previs to kind of get the story into shape, but then also to prep them for the volume, because they need to know, oh, we're going to shoot this way, we're going to do this, we need to make sure this set dressing is here. So that allows us a lot of freedom in that. Not to mention that we have to use it as almost a writer's room in a way, because we're pre-cut an episode as a storyboards and then as previs and then finally as when it's finally shot.
Yeah, so the previs, that whole concept seems like it kind of gets challenged. I don't know, Andrew, with this virtual production process, how much does it really change the previs process? Because a lot was made in that Disney Gallery series, and it's a terrific series if everybody wants to learn more about The Mandalorian, about how the whole show was, in a sense, put together before shooting took place. So how does that impact you as editors?
So, I mean, Jeff actually was on before any of us. He was the first editor to be hired to do previs, but I can speak to it in that I have worked on a lot of big visual effects movies, and generally the MO is to shoot do previs for big action sequences. You don't worry about the dialogue scenes, that stuff. It's all going to get shot the traditional way, whether it's blue screen or not. But it's the action sequences they really need to map out ahead of time. The difference on this, like Dylan said, is that we actually have to do the entire episode from beginning to end, dialogue scenes and everything, because they are mapping out every single background of every stage. When you think of the Werner Herzog scene in episodes 1 and 3, and actually many of the episodes last year, his office is not real. He's got a desk. Everything else, you'd think, oh, we could have just built a set for that so easy, but not with that level of detail and not with that scope. It's a video wall behind him, so they had to plan for that, and that's where the previs came in. So we're busy, doing our, cutting it like a finished film, and they're saying it doesn't have to be that fine cut. It doesn't have to, have all those action beats. We just want to know where we're going to be pointing the camera. That was a lot of what they're thinking. It didn't change the way we cut, but that's what they were looking for.
So, Dana, for an editor who has had so much success in theatrical comedies, how much of a departure was this for you? Is it just editing is editing and storytelling is storytelling, or were there things you had to adapt to or new methods you had to employ that were like, wow, this is a whole new way of looking at doing my job?
When I approach any kind of film or TV show, editing is editing. It's all about just telling the story. So for me, yeah, I was scared and nervous to join this franchise, but in the end, once I get into it, once I'm standing at the Avid at my console and just I just look at all the material and try and put it together the best that I can in whatever format it is. So there were some challenging moments, like with cutting with previs and not I didn't have a huge amount of experience with visual effects prior to this. So trying to imagine where the ATST is and what the ATST is and all of where
you had to edit an entire climax action scene with no footage.
Exactly.
Like you had the actors in like holes of water, and then everything else was, well, we could look at this or we could look at that.
And that was all on blue screen. So, it wasn't, I had Dylan, of course, to, sort of bounce ideas off of and help me along the way. And he actually, did a lot of that sequence too. But, it's just trying to imagine things, didn't have the volume on that. So going basically off of previs and imagination was probably the biggest challenge for me, but at the end of the day, it's still just telling a story.
Well, Dylan, you can take the lead on this one, because I know I believe you had done some similar stuff with Solo: A Star Wars Story with your experience on that. But with this new model, are you all working with more finished quality elements earlier on, and does that give you a better sense of how the show is coming together?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was just thinking that as Dana was talking about, we were talking, and Jeff, in terms of having the blue screen, it's so different. It's so different when you have something back there to cut against and go, okay, that's what's back there. Oh, there's this big, city behind them, or there's this small room, or whatever it is, and being able to have that there available to you makes all the difference.
Well, it orients you too, because sometimes you don't
Yeah.
know where people are in a room when it's all blue screen and they're being shot separately. And Matt, you said something about, in this days of pandemic, how does does our workflow change anything? And really, from a production standpoint, you still have to go. There's still, 1,000 people standing on a stage, or however many people in close quarters. Just because we're doing it on this video wall versus blue screen doesn't really change the fact that there's a lot of activity going on, and it doesn't really change our workflow that much. They could have shot on a location, or they could have shot on this wall, and to us, the editor, it's the same. So that's just something I would say about that. I don't think other productions can look to us and go, oh, how can we make this more efficient in a way that we can avoid this pandemic thing. I personally don't see how that would be possible, seeing what I've seen being on the set.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the location part of it, because that was a question I wanted to ask you about. I mean, this, you know, you talk to editors a lot of time on a feature film, like some of you, do on a regular, or all of you do on a somewhat regular basis. And it's, did you edit on location? We're able to go on location, do the editing, and the benefits of being there on set or near set, to be able to assist the director in making sure, we've got what we're looking for, and also to better inform you as an editor in a lot of ways. In this kind of environment, your set, with the volume, it's just a big room next door. I mean, were you all working in the same general area as quote unquote the volume? And how did that impact the process if you were, basically right there as it was happening?
Well, I'll tell you from my perspective, being a massive Star Wars nerd, walking from our offices, which were on the third floor, downstairs to the stage was kind of like a daily thing that I would do, almost like kind of like pinch me, am I dreaming sort of thing. And like you'd go down there and you'd walk into the volume and literally you're on the, you're in the cantina from New Hope. But the only thing that's real is the bar. But you walk in and look around, or you walk up to the Razor Crest, and like the only thing that's real is the ramp that goes into it, but the rockets and the shit is all on the video wall, and you're sitting there kind of like, I'm here now, and this is really too much.
And then you'd go take a walk to craft service and
yeah, and then you go take a walk to craft service. But or you'd walk onto the set like the Werner set that Andrew was talking about, where it was like you couldn't. It really kind of messed with your eyes too, because you couldn't tell when you were on the set that it was a video wall for a half a beat. But then you'd see stormtroopers walk in with their prop guns, and then a guy came in dressed as the Mandalorian, and you're just like, oh gosh, what am I doing? Where am I?
You know what I found the most intimidating, more than any of those characters, is the little green guy. The little green, that guy, it's terrifying to go up to him and like say, hey, can I touch him, or can I get close up to him? It's like, don't look him in the eye.
Is this a crew member, or is this the child you're talking about?
The child.
Just the little green guy.
The first time I met the little green guy, the puppeteers, like I thought it was off. Like I was just kind of like going up. I didn't know anybody was like doing anything with it. And the puppeteers were like messing with me, and like I walked up and it looked up at me, and I kind of jumped back for a second, and I was like, hi, how are you? And they were like messing with me just like around the corner, and I had like a little conversation with it. It was magical.
I'm gonna bring up one other point about being close to a stage, and this could happen on any anytime that the editors are nearby. I've gone to Atlanta on productions with Marvel. I've gone to Europe on productions where the director, sometimes against the wishes of the studio, insists that the editors come along because he wants to be able to see his footage cut as close to real time as possible, be able to make decisions based on that. And in season 1, there was one particular scene that John was having a bit of an issue with, and he kept coming to the cutting room and saying, how do we make this, how do we get this to to pop? We was like something. And so I proposed something, and he said, well, to do that though, we'd have to pick up these shots. And he said, why don't you just come down to the volume, come downstairs, and let's just do it together. And so there I was standing with John and the director, and we were like working out how to get these shots that would make this scene, improve the scene. And that is the true value of having an editor close by. as opposed to being, you know, working across the country or wherever.
Also,
which
to
is
that
possible.
end, it was kind of imperative that, you know, when we're sitting there editing, so we edited the previs, right? And you have a droid who's gonna be replaced, and then you have creatures who are gonna get replaced, and then you have like another character that is in a vehicle that's gonna get replaced or added. And so you get to the set and you're looking at one human being in a costume without a face and nothing else. But all of that stuff is eventually going to be there. So you bring the editor down and he says, okay, where does IG go in this shot? And where does the creature come from? And at what time does the shit drive in? And you know what I mean? So it's like, you're kind of sitting there with the animated version, showing the director and the actors, and then they go film it with none of that stuff. And then you edit it and you start cutting it in with this animated stuff, so you kind of know where things are. But like shooting it, you've got one human being, and eventually the shot's gonna be populated with a bunch of things.